The 2 and 2 plus 5 is a different situation, but when you make an assumption on objects, you say, because, only objects can exist for the purposes of science. The reason for that is the only way to use the word exist consistently is if you use it in the context of objects. So you can say in science, let us assume a unicorn exists. Now I can explain why that hole in the wall is there. Okay, and you explain how the unicorn rammed the wall and made the hole. Now, does that mean the crowd is going to, accept your theory? That's a different story. They resolve that at their own homes. That's extra scientific, what people believe afterwards. The important thing as far as science is concerned is to explain. And here we have an explanation. We have a unicorn. This is what the presenter presented, and this is what he pointed to, and with that he explains how the hole in the wall was made. Now, is this theory correct, or do you like that theory? Well, maybe you reject it. You don't like it, someone else might like it.
I think like it is something that would be unscientific too, right? I mean, the phrase like it is not something that is scientific. It's not a matter of personal taste. It's a matter of what can be objectively verified and proven and what holds together logically and so on. I think it's not a matter of liking versus not liking scientific theories. But again, I'm happy to be corrected if I've misunderstood something you've said.
My point here is that in science, we have to present something logically. The theory must follow from the hypothesis. The hypothesis in this case is the ET. The theory is the crop circle. The hypothesis is the unicorn. The theory is how the hole was made in the wall. The hypothesis is God, and how the universe came to be created is the theory. We do not believe in hypotheses. If anything, we believe in theories. The hypothesis we grant, we take at face value in order to understand the theory. That's the scientific method. That's not what we do out there every day. The reason we have black holes, warp space, zero-dimensional particles, Big Bang today is because we're not following the scientific method.
And I was reading some of that, and I'm certainly no physicist, of course, and I was reading some of the material that you've written about that, which I think is interesting. I would just like to jump back for one split second, which is to say that the unicorn through the wall theory, or hypothesis, I guess, would only really advance to the status.
The hypothesis is the unicorn. The theory is how the hole was made. We're trying to explain the hole.
Right, and the unicorn really only gains credence in that theory if only a unicorn could conceivably have produced that hole, right? I mean, if a unicorn could have produced that hole, but also a charging horse, then we go with the Occam's razor to the more simple of the two explanations.
Credence is a matter of opinion. What is proved to you is a lie to me, and vice versa.
Credence is a matter of opinion. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
You may believe in God and I don't, or maybe vice versa. The question is, the theory that God created the universe is one theory that someone accepts and that someone else rejects. You may say that's not the truth. Well, go explain that to a fanatic, born-again Christian.
Well, but we don't judge the value, or sorry, I shouldn't say, we don't judge the objective truth or falsehood of a theory by the degree to which it is accepted or rejected by individuals. We judge it relative to the testable, objective, empirical, reproducible science that's experimentation that is around it, right?
I disagree. Science has nothing to do with experiment. Experiment we do for technology. In science, we only explain. What people do after, what people believe in, what the experiments people want to run afterwards to verify whatever they want to verify for themselves is their own opinion. As far as science is concerned, when that person comes to the next conference, all he's got to do is explain up there.
So, if I understand this rightly, you place a line between hypothesis, theory, and empirical verification or testing or experimentation. And you say that the former two are science and the last one, the testing, is technology.
Is extra scientific. You can run whatever tests you want in your lab, in your dark basement, and you can run 1 million experiments if you want and empiricize all you want. As far as science is concerned, all they want to know is when you come back to the conference, you better explain, your theory, your explanation for how does it, what happened? What is the cause of something?
Well, but you do need to, theories make predictions which should be validated or verified in empirical settings. Isn't that correct?
No, it's not correct. A prediction is a description. That's all it is. And predictions are not explanations. I can predict that there's going to be an eclipse tomorrow. That does not give me any insight into why.
Well, okay, but let's take a theory that you're not a big fan of just because it's one I'm mildly familiar with, right? So if Einstein says the speed of light is constant, then certain physical manifestations of that universal law will be there, right? So you would then test the theory that the speed of light is constant with reference to the measurable effects of that theory in the real world to find out if the theory accurately predicts the way that matter is going to behave. And if it doesn't, if matter doesn't behave in the way that the theory predicts, then the theory takes a blow, as far as I understand it.
Well, again, we confuse what a description with an explanation. Whether the speed of light is constant is not a theory. It's just a description. It either is or it ain't.
Right, and the way you would test that is according to the measurable effects of this description.
Well, you test descriptions maybe. You don't test theories. How do you test the theory?
Well, okay, so there's a theory called evolution, which you would test by assuming that more complex organisms are not going to be earlier in the fossil record than less complicated organisms, something like that. Again, I'm no biologist, but it would be something like that.
Well, what have you done just now? You've given an explanation for some past thing, okay, some past occurrence. You've given an explanation, and fine. Some people will accept that, some people won't. I'm sure I take this to people like Jerry Falwell or Pat Robertson, and they may not agree with you.
Well, but the fact that a blind person can't see the sun doesn't mean that we all live in darkness, right?
Again, we have 7 billion people on the planet. And some people believe in this and some people believe in that. And again, science doesn't care in what they believe in.
All right. Well, let's move on a little bit to some of your criticisms of contemporary physics and it struck me when I was reading some of these criticisms that you had, that it seems quite similar to what is complained about in economics, that economics has become a purely mathematical discipline in many areas. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the criticisms that you have of contemporary science, particularly physics, and its overuse or over-reliance, that you say it's become a discipline of mathematics.
Yeah, first I would change the word. It's not physics, it's mathematics. They call it physics. I don't know why, because it has nothing to do with physics. Physics, first and foremost, requires an object, a physical object. We cannot do physics without objects. And for the last 400 years, we've been doing physics without objects, specifically in the last 100 years.
And sorry, by objects you mean something that has a physical presence in space-time or has some measurable effect, like gravity or something like that?
I define it much more stringently. An object is that which has shape, period. It doesn't go beyond that. If it has shape, it's an object. If it doesn't have shape, the word refers or alludes to a concept. So the world is divided between objects and concepts. What the mathematicians have been doing for the last 100 years is been moving concepts. They've been carrying forces, transferring energy, dilating time, warping space. These are all concepts. In science, especially in physics, we do not move concept. We do not move a mass. We do not carry a force. These are euphemisms that the mathematicians introduce because they cannot explain. In science, we move a tree. We have a dog run. It's a rock that rolls. It's got to be something, and that something has to have shape. So the question is, what are the mathematicians doing who claim to be doing physics? What is all this time dilation? What is all this mass movement and energy transfer? What is all this poppycock? It's not a part of science. In science, again, we have to try to figure out what this thing that we call light is.